Here's what we're talking about. We're actually going to talk about how the Rohrman Auto Group turns website traffic into more opportunities, which I think that's what everyone wants, right? So to help lead that conversation, please help me in welcoming up Jeremy Rodriguez, the Senior Director of Product of Trade for TRADEPENDIng. Jeremy, you ready? There he is. Let's give him a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. The stage is yours. Enjoy. You're welcome.
You want me to go up with them?
Are we good? Yeah. All right, folks. Thanks everybody for coming. Hopefully, this is a great way to kick off your first, I think, full day of NADA. So we're joined here by. Feel free to introduce yourself.
Yeah. Thanks for having me out.
Yeah, of
I'm
course.
Ryan Rohrman. I'm the CEO of the Rohrman Automotive Group. Happy to be here.
Oh, well, thanks so much for taking the time. You've been a great partner of ours, and really excited to talk about everything that's going on.
Yeah.
So, obviously, the theme today is talking about how Rohrman turns website traffic into opportunities. So, as someone who comes from a company that is a leader in turning website traffic into opportunities, you know, we always think about that in the context of tools, and we'll talk about tools a lot today. But you know, after the tool does its job and someone clicks submit on your website, right? It's really about people from that point on. So let's talk a little bit about the people at your dealership and some of the processes and the structure there. So how do you have your dealerships in your stores organized and sort of set up to be able to handle website leads?
So we have 20 rooftops throughout the Midwest, and what we really focus on is a high-touch culture. So what I mean by that is we believe that the trickle-down effect does not work. So if I come to a GM meeting or a director meeting and have a concept, if I go into the store the very next day and I say, hey, what do we talk about? In theory, the salespeople should know because it affects them, but they don't because that's the trickle-down effect and it's broken. So we are very engaged in being in front of all 1,300 of our employees almost every single month. So we have high in-person touch points 11 out of the 12 months, and we drive process like crazy through those. On top of that, we have a unified program that we call the Infinite Pursuit. It's a game, and we utilize that to drive our culture forward. It's like a form of gamification of this is what we expect you to do and this is what it looks like, and we drive that. So that's that's really briefly going over it, but those are some of the things that we do, but it's all about people for sure.
Awesome. And you know, I definitely want to drill into some of that process as we continue. What is it? So lead comes into your CRM. In terms of structure, what does that look like for you? Is it a BDC jumping on that lead and handling it, passing off to sales? Could you talk about a little bit?
So we've changed over the years. I mean, I think that a few years ago, we did have those BDCs with people in the back room and doing that, but we've migrated away from that. We believe that the best person to handle that customer journey is potentially the person that would be selling them the car. So we don't have a BDC in any store sales BDC. We do service BDCs, but from the sales side, the sales associate handles the lead from the time that it enters the CRM to the time hopefully that we're selling that customer a car.
Awesome. So that kind of begs a really important question, you know, for anybody that's, you know, maybe thinking about how they're handling leads, right? You're obviously emphasizing the role of the salesperson in that process. To you, what kind of characteristics and qualities make a great Rohrman salesperson? Like, what kind of insight, you know, could someone who wants to get better at handling leads glean from what you guys are doing?
I think a lot of it is it's multiple things. So, you know, people make this business special. I mean, anyone in the car business knows that it's about people. So I think from the people standpoint, we've really leaned into our tenure inside the auto group. So we have a problem in the automotive industry with high turnover. And so it is going to be very hard, in my opinion, to establish a very, we'll call it well-oiled machine if you have consistent turnover happening all the time. So at some level, the culture of the organization has to shift to, we want to keep people, and we want to pour into them, show them this is what a path forward looks like. This is what you can do with this career path. And so, like and tenure, it takes a long time to shift. So in 2018, when we really started leaning into this, the average tenure, I'm almost embarrassed to say this out loud, our average tenure was just shy of 3 years. It was like 2.6 years. And right now we're almost to 5. So that's huge. I mean, if you don't have consistent turnover, you'll never have a really good process inside of that. So that's like step one, I would say, on the people side is the culture has to be a place where people want to come to work. And we can do that with the shifts that they work, the hours, the compensation, all those things matter. And what does the touch points look like from the top down with them? So that's why I said, like, those 11 touch points that we do with all 1,300 of our employees, myself and my director team, we all do those. So it's not, we don't hire it out, we don't let tier 2 or tier 3 managers handle that. We do it from the top down. So that's step one. I think step two is the process inside the CRM drives a lot of it as well. If we have the mentality where more is better in terms of emails or texting or calls, I think we can wear people out really fast. Not just our customers, but we can wear our employees out as well. So I think having a really clear expectation of when you get into work every single day, what are you doing? What does your job look like? And so we define that for them in a big way. And so I think combining that culture touch point with a really clear defined path of what your day looks like, I think those two things really matter a lot.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, right? Yeah. So before coming into product, I worked with the retail side. So, it is a labor of love, and it's a pretty intense process.
Yeah.
Ramping up a salesperson and investing a lot in them. So retaining, somebody that you've put a lot of effort and blood, sweat, and tears into obviously makes a lot of sense. So want to kind of hone in a little bit more about that process because, to me, if I'm a really, really great salesperson, that's phenomenal. But if I'm plugged into a bad process, like you said, I'm probably heading out the door. Are there some ways that trade pending and what you do with us kind of lends to a better process and helps, arm your salespeople and to be better at their job?
So, trade pending for our team, where it really sits, initially you might think it's just a trade-in tool or something like that, but it's really a data capture tool for us. So it runs all our CTAs on all our sites across the group. And so first thing is, I would say, is the consumer experience with that CTA. How easy is it? I love the example of like OpenTable. Like if you think of how easy is it to make a reservation on OpenTable, it's really quite simple.
Very easy, yeah.
And so with our partnership, I feel like we're constantly changing it, but you guys have been great to be like, we can do that, we can do that. And so we keep making our CTAs more user-friendly. If the consumer is on our website and they've gotten down to the point of, I want to put information into this format, how easy is that? And so I think that's a big one that I would say we've partnered really well together to figure out how easy is it for the consumer to do that fast and then move on. So from that data capture level, but then it's, well, how can we pick up from where the consumer left off? And so that data capture has to give us enough information so that the sales associate knows this is how far they went. So I'm not starting over on that deal.
Sure.
And so the information inside of our process works really well with you guys on that as well. So that continuing of the car deal, it's not a start over.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So I think there's a few follow-up questions that I would have there. So I think you've very clearly stated something very important, right? That what's working for you in terms of website conversion is, for lack of a better word, simplicity, right? It's removing a lot of friction, right? Make it very easy for the consumer to get from point A to point B. That seems logical. And then you had mentioned that the CTAs are more than just a CTA on your website, right? They're kind of a piece of the puzzle for understanding where a customer left and then coming into the process. So can you elaborate a little bit more about what you're doing with some of that information? Like I know that you're working in some of your marketing efforts, that kind of a thing.
So about 18 months ago, we partnered with Telium as our CDP provider, and that just opened up our eyes to a lot of things that we miss. Like we all know inside of the automotive world, like what the form fulfillment rate actually is. There's a 70 to 80% abandonment rate on every form on a website. So that means that when we actually see the results of a sales lead or a service appointment, we're actually only seeing 30% of what actually was on our website. Now, 18 months ago, the consumer's journey with Rohrman ended there. But now we call that an abandonment, and that's an audience type that we can now activate. So, but again, the partnership has to be able to get that information, and not all partners. Frankly, that's one of the reasons that we've partnered with you guys over the last couple of years was you were first to say, we can give you all that, and then we can go and activate on that. So from a Marcom standpoint, we are able to find 70 to 80% more customers to market to without going out and buying lists and whatnot, because they are on our site with the intent to do something, but then they stop for some reason. And we don't know why that was. If they're on their phone, it could have been that, they're driving in their car and it's time for them to go, or the boss walks in and they need to put their phone down, or their kids walk in, or they get a phone call or a text message. All those reasons are great reasons why you would abandon that form. But then it's, do we have a partner that has the ability to give us that information that we can then activate? And so we've been activating form abandonment now for probably 6 to 8 months, and the return on both sales and service, it's huge.
Yeah, that was something that I think got us really excited when you started talking to us about what you're trying to do with Telium and your CDP as a whole. It made a lot of sense for us that, obviously a lead is incredibly valuable to you, but if we can, I think, provide some value to you outside of just the lead itself, then it becomes kind of a better partnership overall, right? The non-leads sometimes have value as well, right? So outside of those things, I want to ask kind of two questions. What, when you're talking about a vendor-dealer relationship, I think you went over some of this, but it's kind of a blanket statement. What do you think is really important for there to exist in that relationship? I would always kind of say that, when I was on the dealer side, it was easy to look at a vendor as a monthly expense, and when you're on the vendor side, it's sort of easy to look at a dealer as just somebody who's paying a monthly fee. But there's more to it than that. Dominic and I from your team have talked about this at length, right? There's a lot of mutual benefit out there, right?
I think a lot of it is the flexibility of the partner themselves. There's a lot of partners or vendors. I do think there's a difference between a vendor and a partner. So
well said.
A vendor is a monthly bill, and that's, hey, this is what we do. It's unchanging, and when I hear from them, it's probably because I'm a day late on paying the bill, right? A partner is different. A partner is someone who, if I have an idea, is able to, like for example, when I said, hey, can I capture all the form abandonment folks on our website? And you guys were like, yeah, that's a partnership, because that is not what you normally do. I'm not sure how many dealers are actually asking for that right now, because you have to be able to receive and activate on that. But that's a partnership, and then I think it's both ways. I was just talking with your CEO, and he had an idea, and I was like, yeah. I was like, can Rohrman be one of the tests on that? So I think it goes back and forth, because on your side of it, you see things that we don't see. On my side of it, we see things that you don't see. And I think a partnership says, well, let's try some new stuff. And as long as we keep trying these things, we'll land on something that works, boom, like that benefits you, definitely benefits me, and I think that is the beautiful thing of a partnership versus a vendor relationship.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. It makes a lot of sense, right? I mean, when you guys at Rohrman first came to us and started talking to us about Telium and just better ways to perform on websites and all of that, right? We took a lot of action because one, we want to be a valuable partner for you and be invested in your performance with our tool and just the growth of your business. But there's a lot of mutual benefit too, where it helps us understand our positioning in the market. What we do and what we think of it, right? Is that actually resonating with dealers, or are there things that we're actually doing? This whole concept of abandonment is a great example of that, right? Maybe there's a whole other value proposition that we haven't unlocked, and maybe that helps inform our future roadmap. So that's I couldn't agree more. The feeling is mutual there. One thing I wanted to just shift gears here. I know we're a little bit tight on time, but you guys do something really, really neat. Your recharge events.
Yeah.
I want to talk about those.
Okay.
Can you talk about for the uninformed what those are, why you do them, what kind of outcomes and successes come from those?
Yeah. So what we have these things called recharge events, and so this goes back to those touch points. So like I love the concept of high touch points. This my philosophy, I guess you could call it. If you want to move 1,300 people in one direction, it's very challenging to do that. There's not enough memos you can send out, threats, I don't know. Think of all the different ways that people try to move stuff forward. I think the best way to do that is in person, in front of them, and show them that it's, number one, we don't ask you to do anything that we ourselves are not doing. So I think it starts with that, but then it's making those experiences really awesome. So our purpose statement inside of the auto group is driving relationships, awesome experiences. So we try to say in everything we do, that's our filter. So, the filter works on both sides. So whether it's with the consumer, we want to drive that relationship, or whether it's with each other, those 1,300 employees that work for us, we want to drive those relationships, and then it needs to be awesome. And so like whatever we do, it needs to be an awesome experience. So for our recharge events, we do those 4 times a year. We have beautiful stores, but we don't do them in stores. We get them out of the store. And so we'll rent, in Chicago, we use a college, and we use their auditorium. In the other markets we're in, we use conference rooms and hotels, and we make these events awesome. I mean, we have smoke machines, we have fire, we have all kinds of stuff. We have characters, we dress up. I shouldn't say we. I don't dress up, but the team dresses up. But it's fun. And every single time it's like, well, why do we do this? Because we don't want it to be another stuffy training session. Because I just don't know how much good that actually does. Sure. So we go over the top. We had when the new Mission Impossible movie came out, we had Mission Possible, and we had a full movie of a guy doing stunts inside of a dealership, and then we reenacted it into the actual training room we're in. I mean, it was wild. So we bring a ton of fun because it has to be awesome. If it's not awesome, we're not living up to our core purpose. Because again, if we're asking our sales staff and advisor team to create an awesome experience for our customer base, then we have to do that for our staff as well. So we do those 4 recharge events. You guys have been there a couple times.
Yeah.
So we invite our partners to come in to those, and we normally have a big group session at the beginning where we have a lot of fun, and then we'll end it that way, and then we'll do breakouts. So we'll do breakouts for sales managers, for advisors, for parts managers, for service managers, and we really cater all that specifically to that position in the store, and it's consistent. We rarely are saying, all right, we got something new process. It's the same process, and we just try to keep refining it and making it better.
So, I know that we're essentially at time here, and to me, if I were in a dealer's position, and hopefully this is resonating with some folks out there, it seems like a lot of the secret sauce is not this really difficult to understand crazy idea. It's have a really simple process to bring a lot of opportunity into your store and then really invest in your team and go all in on empowering them to be able to do what they need to do and stick to that process. And
I always tell, whenever we do the recharge events, I always try to remind everyone in the room, selling cars and servicing cars is fun. Like, it's fun. And if you're not having fun doing it, then we're missing something.
Sure.
So if we lose that edge in this business, that's a shame. So we got to keep it fun. It has to be simple, and it all comes down to experience. And a lot of times we focus on just the experience of the consumer, but I think that's important. But the experience of the staff is just as important. People enjoying working at a dealer group will enjoy doing the tasks that we ask them to do for the consumer. So it's hard to provide a great experience for the consumer if you don't love the experience of working inside the auto group that you're in right now. So I think both things have to hit at the same time.
Awesome. Well, I know we're at time, so couldn't thank you enough for spending the time here. And again, you've been a wonderful partner for us here at Trade Pending, and for anybody else that is wants to talk more about what we do and part of your process, we are here over at Trade Pending. So thanks a lot. Thanks for everybody's attention, and
thank you.
Take care.